So there was a lot of references on this week's episode of WWE Raw about other WWE superstars who have recently been released. I thought this was a little bit of bad taste, and that's why I'm not going to mention it again, but I wanted to mention it here because now it's out the way, it's in your ears, and you can do whatever the hell you want to do with that. But yes, hello, my name is Simon Miller here at WhatCulture Wrestling, and we have decided, why don't we go through the most recent episode of Monday Night Raw and give the good bits an up and the bad bits a down, or just tell you what you should go and watch and what you should absolutely avoid if you have decided to watch me instead of WWE programming, which I do appreciate. Take the finger of power, give the good bits an up, the bad bits a down. Seth Rollins was out here to start Raw and he got a microphone and said, well, I am in a tremendous mood because at the day one pay-per-view, I shall be facing Biggie for the WWE title. Now, usually at this stage, I would have a meltdown because I'm like, oh my gosh, why are people just allowed to come out and say, could I have title shot, please? And someone goes, of course you can, I love you. But thankfully, Seth did win that number one contender match a few weeks ago. So this all made sense. As soon as he had got this out of his mouth too, mostly so we could show off the fancy new graphic, Finn Balor's music hit, and he didn't come out to have a chat, he didn't come out to have a promo off, he just started to kick Seth Rollins' ass, which I always appreciated, because remember last week, Seth had done the same for him. And what was he gonna do, come out and do a lockup? That'd be stupid. Balor also used the still steps, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and he grabbed Seth, and he threw him into the barricade. And I'm sorry, I am getting very upset and very worried about Mr. Barricade, that's right, I've given him a name, because this is not his job, and nobody ever even tries to protect him. This also led into Seth Rollins and Finn Balor that we were meant to get last week, but we were getting this week instead, and honestly, they could fight every single day of the week, and I would go out of my way to watch it, like some weird 24/7 channel where it's just Seth versus Finn. It's never going to get down. Honestly, they'd have to, I don't know, sit down and play checkers, but even then, I bet they'd find a way to build a story around it. Get enough. However, there are some issues. Firstly, it only got 8 minutes, and given that if you had given these two 15 plus, they probably could have had a match of the year, that does make you feel a bit sad in your tum-tum. But also, when it comes to Finn Balor, well, he is losing an awful lot lately, as he did here. I mean, we're still not really up to speed about what the hell happened when he was taking on Roman Reigns and the rope just broke. And while he did lose here, mostly because Seth Rollins just poked him in the eye, and somewhere Rey Mysterio was freaking out, he then did get curb stomped, and he got pinned for the 1, 2, 3. And I get it, Rollins is the man right now, and he's doing such a terrific job and more power to him, but why does that mean Balor has to feel like an afterthought? I mean, Finn Balor being an afterthought, it is absolutely crazy. So we shall have to wait and see, and again, definitely go and watch this match, but with all the things that just came out of my mouth, you've got to give it a down, because yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Imagine having Finn Balor on your books, and you don't really know what to do with him. It also seems like Vince McMahon is back on WWE TV proper. I mean, he was hanging out with Austin Theory here, probably because of his name, and he said, hey Austin, would you like to watch the entirety of Monday Night Raw with me? And Austin Theory said, no, I don't want to do that. It's a really weird show. I'm not interested. Of course he didn't. He sat down and he joined the boss. My man also threw in the line though, if you steal from me again, I will kill you. So firstly, that's not very PG, but also, man, I wouldn't want to hang out with Vinnie Mac if he was like this. Last week, he was like, oh, Austin Theory, you're so good, I love you so much. And now he's like, man, I'm going to stab you right in the face. I'm sorry, I can't deal with that kind of stress. I will say that this does not hurt Austin Theory at all, especially because there were multiple segments throughout the evening. I mean, it just stands to reason, even in 2021, if you are paired up with Vince McMahon, it's going to help your stock rise a little. Then we had a contract signing, because of course we did. You know the deal. If WWE doesn't do at least one contract signing within like a few weeks, we all die. So as a member of the human race, I just want to say thank you, WWE. I don't want to die. It was for the Raw Women's Championship as well, because next week we are going to have Becky Lynch versus Liv Morgan. And this was basically Becky saying, oi Liv, next week you better give me more than a punch, because that's not going to be enough to knock me out. Because of course last week Liv Morgan had punched Becky Lynch in the face. You do with that whatever you feel like you need to do with it. Lynch then tried to tell the crowd that they sucked, which is the equivalent of your nan telling you she doesn't love you anymore. Deep down, you know that's not the case, especially when she goes and makes you a tremendous dinner. When Liv Morgan said, "Shut up, Becky Lynch. I want to show you this video." And it was from post-Survivor Series where Becky Lynch was getting very emotional about her friendship, non-friendship with Charlotte Flair, and even talked about that when they used to ride together, they almost died in a car crash. So yes, Becky was clearly very emotional, she was almost crying, but any normal human being would have gone, well, I probably would have been like that too. That sounds like a horrible thing to go through. Morgan then used this as proof that Becky is also an emotional wreck. I was like, wait a minute, Liv, this is not the hill to die on. This is a really bad idea. You're coming across like a dick. Becky then also fired back by saying, well, you would know nothing about that because you've never had a big win. And if I was scoring this, I would have gone Becky Lynch 1, Liv Morgan 0. So what a stupid way to treat a babyface. Lynch then asked Sonya Deville, who was also in the ring, for a 10-person tag match later. And Sonya just went, yeah, okay. And that was the end of that. And look, this was well done to a point, but WWE's insistence that Becky Lynch has to be a heel just isn't working. And here, we got the roles completely the wrong way around, because when all was said and done, I wanted Becky Lynch to kick Liv Morgan's ass because I didn't agree with the things that she had said. So it's silly. It was just really, really silly, and while 9 times out of 10 the silliness I appreciate, this was not the right kind of silly. Down. More nonsense with Randy Orton and Riddle after this, and you already know the deal. They have wonderful chemistry, and they're probably the highlight of Raw. It's mostly the same as ever too, with Riddle being like, man, Randy Orton, I just want to be like you, and Randy being like, stop being an absolute goof and focus on the tag team championships. But because he does like Riddle just a little bit, when Riddle said, oh, Randy, will you close your eyes? He did. My word, did he regret it. Because what Riddle wanted to do was take a Matt Riddle-like wig and put it on Randy Orton's head. When he opened his eyes again and he realized what had gone on, I honestly thought the Viper was about to spontaneously combust. And he told his friend, kind of friend, not friend, take that off my head right now. This whole thing and this whole partnership has been lovely though, and when they actually do split up, it will actually mean something. And they say long-term storytelling is dead. Up. It was then RK Bro versus Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler, and I can only presume that if WWE doesn't do this match all of the time, the gates of hell open. I mean, is it this match that is keeping them closed? And for goodness sake, WWE, would you please introduce some new tag teams into your new tag team division? Either way, up. They were fighting on the outside to begin with because it was Serious Time 9000, because the tag team titles were on the line, and by the time Riddle tagged in there, he was giving everybody draping DDTs, because again, he's obsessed with Randy Orton and kind of wants to be him. Orton was also looking on like a proud dad here, so he said, Riddle, my boy, let's go for a double RKO. But then Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode was like, well, no, we don't want that to happen. So Ziggle Boy Blue was able to hit Randy Orton with the zigzag, and he got a close 1, 2, 3. Sadly though for Dolphy Boy Blue, this then went completely bad because he went for the super kick, he missed. Randy Orton hit with the RKO, he got the 3, still your tag team champions. This was really fun though, all 4 guys are so talented, the fans liked it, so did I. But again, not to double down on this point, we just need to have some brand new tag team matches, because every week, it's exactly the same. Kevin Owens then found Seth Rollins and told him, listen here, old chap, if I beat Biggie in tonight's main event, I'm going to be added to your match at the Day 1 pay-per-view. Understandably, Seth Rollins freaked out, so Kevin Owens told him to go talk to Adam Pearce. So he did. As it turned out, Kevin Owens was lying, because Adam was like, man, I don't know what you're talking about. But when Sonya Deville overheard this, she was like, ew, that sounds like a terrific idea. And I'm sorry, these two are meant to be the general managers of Raw. And you're telling me you hadn't come up with a plan that if Kevin Owens beats the WWE champion, he shouldn't be allowed a WWE championship match. I agree with Vince McMahon, they ain't doing a very good job. Edge was then back on Raw, and of course he was awesome, but I tell you could have sat down there and made guesses for days, and you would never have picked who he's now gonna feud with. This was teased by Edge as well, because he was all like, man, I'm a kid in a candy store, because maybe I'll have a match with Finn Balor, maybe I'll have a match with AJ Styles, maybe I'll have a match with Big E, and I was like, oh my gosh, now I'm a kid in a candy store, because I really want these. And then he got interrupted by the returning Miz. He's now back with Maurice too, because why the hell not? And he was really mad because while Edge got the big PR treatment for his comeback, nobody had said a peep about him. He was also pissed that Edge hadn't mentioned him on this list that he had just read out, which I kind of understand, because look, I like Miz, I think he's had a terrific career, but I've seen Edge versus The Miz back in the day, I don't want to see it in 2021. Edge then knocked him for not being able to win a stupid dance competition like Dancing with the Stars, and The Miz was all like, oh man, I hate the fans for not voting for me. And then we got a baseball bat, and we went inside baseball. It's not a lightsaber. It started when Edge said he knew what Miz was doing, because if he comes to tangle with Edge, all of a sudden he'll be in the main event, to which Miz said, I don't need you to be in the main event. The last time I main evented WrestleMania, do you know where you were on the card? It was the opening match, even though at that point Edge was the World Heavyweight Champion. Also, that was 10 years ago, but hey, let's not stand in the way of a good war. This then led to Edge saying, hey, I know you've had a great career, Miz, right down to the point that people on other shows even use your names for cheap heat. And yes, he was referring to everything with MJF and CM Punk from last week on Dynamite. He also believes that Miz is just using professional wrestling now as a jumping off point to whatever he wants to do next in his career, whereas Edge himself is Mr. Wrestling. I mean, he didn't say that, but that was his point. It then seemed like they were going to have a big fight, because that's what we do in professional wrestling, where, of course, Miz bailed. And I actually think this will be okay, especially if we keep doing those promo-offs, and there's every chance it may just be a small feud. But I really wanted AJ Styles versus Edge, and then we teased it, and we stole it away. It'd be like Domino's knocking on my door and say, Simon, we're going to give you free pizza for the next 2 minutes, and I already had some pizza. Still, I am going to give it an up, because you can't argue that it wasn't very well put together, and Edge is really good at the old promos. It was just tinged with a hint of disappointment. And then, AJ Styles won the night. I mean, this guy. Because he was being interviewed alongside Omos, and he was wearing sunglasses because he was claiming that he was now blind, given that last week the Street Profits took a fire extinguisher and sprayed it right into his face. Now, this was dumb. It was really, really dumb, but AJ was clearly having so much fun with it, and he was acting like such a goof. I cannot lie to you, I must be honest. I really enjoyed it. I mean, there was a time where guys like AJ Styles and even Bryan Danielson were accused by some fans of never being able to do skits like this because they're all about the wrestling. And I'm sorry, over the last few years, my word, have they proved that wrong. It also led to the Street Profits versus the Alpha Academy, and while it was very short, I still did enjoy this because AJ Styles was on commentary once again going, man, I can't see anything. And also, anything with Chad Gable in these days is just an absolute delight. It did have a little bit of a silly finish because even though Styles was blind, he decided he would try to interfere, and Montez Ford just pushed him away. He hit the big splash, and the Street Profits won. And afterwards too, Omos was kind of looking at AJ Styles like, man, you an absolute piece of trash. So I think we may be teasing the breakup here, which I'm all for, because then we can do AJ Styles versus Edge. Seth Rollins then turned into a child, because he found Kevin Owens in the backstage area and he said, I just talked to Adam Pearce and I know that you are a liar, liar, pants on fire. And kind of weirdly, KO just exploded into flames. That didn't happen. Not sure anybody else could have gotten away with that, but Seth Rollins is on a tear right now and he can pretty much do whatever he wants. And KO was still like, bruh, I'm not lying, man. All of that stuff I said was true. So Seth Rollins just walked off. This is a little bit weird. Damian Priest then defeated Apollo Crews to retain the US title, and if you can believe it, something about this was just a little bit off. It was obviously filled with distractions from Commander Aziz, to the point eventually the ref went, man, you're just doing my nutting, will you go to the back? And this is when Damian Priest turned into the Damien, or whatever we call him, and he lost his mind. He went all Jekyll and Hyde. He hit the reckoning and he got the 1, 2, 3. And this wasn't bad at all, like it really wasn't. But given the championship was on the line, I was just like, why hasn't this feud been given any time? Like Apollo Crews came out once and said, I want a title shot, but not now. Then he came out again and said, I want a title shot, but not now. And then from nowhere, we were just having the title shot. It got 8 minutes and we drew a line under it, and that was that. It just feels like there is so much more we could tap into here, but we just don't do it, which is the same as Shinsuke Nakamura over on SmackDown with the Intercontinental title. Like, he doesn't even get to have feuds. He's had that championship for ages and he never defends it. So it's nobody's fault, but the booking just feels so weak and a little bit lame. This time I just sat there all sad, like raindrops are falling on my head, which is not true because my roof is absolutely fine, but the point is, it's gotta get it down. I just think we could have done so much more. Rollins was then seen going back to Pearson DeVille being like, can you please tell me what is going on? And then Adam and Sonya went, well, actually, we've now thought about it, and we do think it's a good idea, so yes, Kevin Owens will be added to your match if he does defeat Biggie later. So we're meant to think that Kevin Owens has kind of wangled his way into position, which also ties into the main event, so actually as a show-long storyline, it was very well done. I'm also now convinced we have done this because Seth Rollins is going to become the WWE Champion, so mark my words, you heard it here first. Because he can now pin Kevin Owens, and Big E can be like, oh my gosh, I'm no longer the champion, even though I didn't lost. And that is a dumb finish, but I just want to get out there now, so I made my prediction early. Rey and Dominic Mysterio then defeated Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander. And I don't really know what this was. For one, it's never been explained why Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander got back together. And this went 3 minutes. Daddy and son hit a double 619, then Dominic hit a splash and he got the 1-2-3. So there was nothing bad about it, but the good is that when Rey Mysterio was in there, he was so fast, he was so quick, he was so smooth, especially for a dude in his late 40s, I decided to give it an up. Just for Rey Mysterio. The man is probably one of the best wrestlers ever, and we don't give him enough respect, so I'm gonna give him the respect right here, right now. I mean, yes, mostly this was WWE going, man, we better give Rey and Dominic a win, because they have lost a lot. So hopefully soon we can do the same with Shelton and Cedric. It was then this 10-women tag, which I do believe was Liv Morgan, Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, Nikki Ash, and Dana Brooke, taking on Becky Lynch, Zelina Vega, Carmella, Doudrop, and Tamina. Wait a minute, breaking news, there's nobody meter. Now, I'm not sure why Lynch would agree to team with any of these guys and vice versa, and it was mostly okay, but I don't know, it was kind of just there, and it went a little bit long given that there was no story to this. But I will give it an up, but again, it was a very weak up. Belair almost beat Tamina Nobody Meaner instantly when she hit the KOD, basically as soon as the bell had gone, but the rest of the teammates pulled Tamina Nobody Meaner out of there. But this tied into a spot later where the bad guys all surrounded Rhea Ripley and started beating her up, while the good guys who were on the apron just watched. And I became full wrestling nerd here. I was shouting at my TV, why don't you get in and do something? You don't have to obey the rules in this kind of a scenario. Like imagine you saw your mum getting a kicking and all you had as a weapon was a baseball bat. You wouldn't go, well no, this is supposed to be used for a sport. I can't go use it as a whacking stick. You take that damn thing and you get to whacking down. There's also this weird bit where Nikki Ash clearly could have made a tag, but she didn't, I guess because there was some communication. But eventually she made the hot tag to Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley ran wild. And then the tag klaxon went off, and everybody was hitting their big moves. And that included a glam slam from Bianca Belair to Tamina. That's right, there's nobody meaner. And I actually said out loud, that was amazing. Why isn't Bianca Belair the champion right now? And I didn't have an answer, mostly because I said it to no one, but I hoped that somebody was just gonna burst in and give me some justification. In true wrestling fashion, this also led to the near falls, including Tamina hitting a super kick on Liv Morgan for the 1-2. She kicked out. And I think it must have annoyed Liv, because she hit the Oblivion onto Tamina. She got the 1-2-3 and the victory, which of course means next week, she will lose to Becky Lynch. The real big question though, is that given that Dana Brooke is now the 24/7 champion, why did nobody run out in this 15 minutes to try and take the championship off her? I mean, we can't even get that right. Vince McMahon and Austin Theory were then in the back once again, where McMahon was trying to explain the art of surprise to Austin, so I suppose they are an item now. I don't mean like they were in love, but they just hanging out like father and son. I don't know, you tell me. And then we were told that Veer is still coming to Raw. That's right, he's still coming. It's been like 3 months now, and why somebody isn't searching for this poor man, I don't know. Because clearly he has been abandoned, but he keeps sending in these videos because, you know, he doesn't want to lose his relatability. Where is he? Where's Veer? Imagine I said, I'm coming around your house, and 3 months later I wasn't there. I would hope you'd be a little bit concerned. Biggie Promo was next, and the man is just so good. And as always, I love him. Because Kevin Patrick asked him if the Kevin Owens stipulation was going to affect him later on, and Biggie just went, nope, and he walked off. Round of applause. He then returned and said the point of all of this is that he doesn't fear any Kevins, and then he looked at Kevin Patrick like, man, don't you make a move on me, because I will drop you. And I just think he is a fabulous WWE champion. Like, I actually want him to do well. And I tell you, in the past, it certainly hasn't been that way. We then quickly snapped back to Austin Theory and Vince McMahon, where for some reason Vince said, hey Austin, have you learned everything I've taught you today? And Austin went, yeah, I think so. So McMahon went and just slapped him right round the face. I don't know, it makes no sense, but again, just being associated with Vince McMahon is a good thing. Like, you don't want to emasculate the guy too much, but he's a brand new star on Raw, and this is what they're doing with him. Compare it to somebody like Karrion Kross, all of this was fine. It was then our usual Raw main event madness, but this one was a little bit more infuriating than usual, because even though they had a wacky finish, it was a wacky finish that made all the sense in the world, but sadly was affected because WWE does wacky finishes every single week. Because this whole match was essentially one big Kevin Owens plan as he tried to sneak his way into that main event. Because while he was beating up Big E here and there, given that Seth Rollins was on commentary, he kept walking up to Seth and prodding the bear, because he was like, if you attack me, I will win this match via disqualification. So please do attack me, because I just want to win. There was also some awesome stuff going back on in the ring, because Big E went for his spear, but Kevin Owens cut him off with a knee, so Big E was then going for the STO, but Kevin Owens was able to hit the pop-up powerbomb. This was true proper wrestling tennis, and I was feeling pretty good about it. Owens then decided he was going to go to the top rope and probably do something stupid, but he changed his mind, because he was like, man, I've hit Big E with a lot of moves, but none of it's worked. Maybe I should go back to plan B and just go wind up Seth again. But this time it did work. Rollins lost his cool. He attacked Kevin Owens. That meant the ref had to call for the DQ. Kevin Owens is your winner and is now going to the main event at the Day 1 pay-per-view. Smart. Seth also gave Big E the stomp after this because he was so mad at himself, but honestly, what a great way to get to a disqualification, because you can go, well, I totally understand why Kevin Owens did do that, and that's why I'm giving it an up. However, we do have to pull down the board. DQs still roll up to 66. And imagine if that number was 10. We'd only had 10 DQs the entirety of 2021. This would have been a really good way to end Raw, and it's why it boils my blood so much. I mean, it doesn't. I'm exaggerating for effect, but it is really dumbed down. Owens also made sure that he laughed his ass off after this, and honestly, even AJ Styles could have seen this coming, and he's blind now. And I will say, this was a much better Raw than last week. Like, it's still filled with absolute shenanigans. Kevin Owens, Big E, and Seth Rollins are just holding the whole ship together now. That's why overall, look at the tension here. Is getting up. Now please do leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's episode of Raw. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Head on over to WhatCulture.com, where we will keep you up to date with all of the latest wrestling happenings. Make sure you come follow us on social media. And there's a ton of ups and downs videos, including retro ups and downs. Watch everyone. My name is Simon WhatCulture. Thank you for joining me as always. You take care of yourself and take care of each other. I'll see you soon.